Hey, we're going to get rolling here today, and I know this is kind of midweek on putting out our webinar, but with this FSA data getting released early in here, we just want to try to bring some clarity to these numbers, and that's why we're bringing this here today. It's a lot easier for us to go through with this with some slides and visit with you on it than write it on a report in here this afternoon. So let's look at these FSA numbers that were released early. We had corn acres at 91.2 million. Soybeans at 86.2, wheat acres at 49.3. So what does this all mean? I think the first thing what we need to do when we look at these acres is compare to what they were in August, okay? On corn acres are at 91.2 now, they're at 90.3 in August. That is no surprise at all as these numbers are increasing in here because as the FSA collects more data, more people report the acres, these numbers are going to gradually increase. What we're doing here, though, on this chart is we're comparing the September numbers to what they were of October a year ago. And why we're comparing to the October acreage numbers is the FSA has come out and stated that they are ahead on collecting the data, and instead of releasing these numbers in October, they're releasing these numbers now to correspond with the upcoming USDA report. So when I look at these numbers in here right now and compared to a year ago, we've got corn acres at 91.2 million acres by the FSA compared to 88.2 of a year ago. This tells us corn acres should be up around 3 million acres from last year. When we look at the bean numbers, it says the bean acres are up about 4.3 million acres and wheat acres should be about 3.2 million higher. The other way to take a look at these numbers besides the actual difference is measured on a percentage. And as you can see, corn acres are up 3.4%, bean is up 5.3%. So what do we do with these numbers? The first thing we're looking at here is our August acreage for 21 compared to the final acreage in 2020. And as you can see, the USDA has corn acres up 1.9 million acres, going from 90.8 to 92.7. But if you just remember back to the last slide, we're stating on there that the FSA acres are saying total acres should be up around 3 million acres. That's where we have a little bit of discrepancy in here. Now, as we look towards the next slide, though, this is what we have in place. As we're looking at where the USDA has the August numbers at compared to where they were in 2020. And then if we take our numbers from the slide number 4 to previous slides, we're forecasting where our actual acreage could be. So on corn, we're adding 3 million acres to 90.8, and we're at 93.8 million acres. If we wanted to go on a percentage increase, it would almost be 93.9 million acres. Now, when I get to the bean side of it, we had 83.1 million acres of a year ago. And when you correspond to slide number 4, it only bumps the acres up to 87.4, maybe to 87.5. That compares to the USDA acreage at 87.6. Just looking at these FSA numbers, bean acres maybe should hold the same. Corn acres could bump up 1 million acres. The biggest surprise on this FSA acreage report, though, was the wheat side of it. And as you can see, it looks like the wheat acres were understated by 500 to 750 million acres. Now, where did these acres come from? The prevent plant numbers from 2020 compared to 2021 really sticks out to us. In 2020, combined corn, soybeans, and wheat prevent plant was 8.8 million acres. It's down below 1.3 in here this year, a drop of 7.5 million acres. This is a combination due to price and basically drought, as a lot of acres got planted. One thing we just want to go back on here is back in March, we looked at and we kind of did an acreage debate before that March 31st acreage report came out. And I believe this slide is from like a mid-March webinar. Okay, and what you can have on the far right side in here is we pegged corn and combined corn, soybeans, and wheat acres between 226 and 231 million acres. But what we are most confident with is that bottom number when we add prevent plant, as we thought our final acres, if we looked at corn, soybeans, and wheat and added prevent plant, should fall in this range of 230 to 232 million acres. So now what do we think we're going to have on this report tomorrow? On the right side here, we have the USDA August numbers. And in the middle, we have our estimate in here right now. We think corn acres tomorrow could come in at 93.8 million acres, soybeans at 87.5, wheat at 47.4, okay? You look at the market in here today, spring wheat probably responded to this FSA acreage number the hardest in here, trading sharply lower in here today. When I look at my combined acreage of corn, soybeans, and wheat, that comes out to 228.7 million acres. You need to remember on prevent plant, there's some other crops that will be included in prevent plant when the final numbers are put out. So this gives us a corn, soybeans, wheat, and a total prevent plant figure of around 230 million acres. That falls into the range and what we thought of last March, but at the lower end of that range. Now, as we finish up in here right now, we want to point out that total FSA acres are up around 10 million acres from 2020. And we just mentioned and how we're at the lower end of our 230 to 232 million acre forecast. But the one thing we got to acknowledge is in our estimate before, we did not include sorghum acres. And on this report, this FSA report in here, sorghum acres are up 1.5 million acres from a year ago. They are now close to 7 million acres. A year ago, they're at 5.5. That's a 25% increase from 2020. So if we just start increasing, if we look at this added sorghum acres in here, that puts our target almost at the higher end of our range. Now we went through the acreage and where we think things can line up, but you need to remember tomorrow's report, there's going to be adjustments on the acreage side of it. There's also going to be adjustments on yield side of it. And we could see some minor adjustments on the demand side of the equation as well. Again, we just wanted to update you, give you our bias on the FSA numbers. Now, the thing that we kind of struggle with in here as we look to tomorrow's report is we try to provide logic or common sense when we're looking at these numbers. And it just seems, that's the last thing from the government's mind is logic and common sense. But we wanted to outline on how we think things could shake out with tomorrow's report. Any questions or suggestions in here and what you'd like for another webinar, drop us an email or give us a call. Thanks and have a great day.